Howdy guys, my name is Ben, and here today I'm bringing you a different type of video than I'm used to. You guys are more used to my reactions, but today I'm doing a tier list, and I think it could be pretty cool to do. I wanted to pretty much do more RWBY content, and outside of reactions, which if you haven't seen, I did my first walkthrough of the series with my friend Andrew, and I just recently started a second walkthrough of the series with my friend Christian. Both never saw it until I brought them in, and I'm just kind of guiding them through the process. If you're interested in that, just click the playlists, and I think you could enjoy the watch. Other than that, today's content is going to be tier list. I think I already said that, but either way, I'm going to be taking one character per video, and I'm going to be putting them through a gauntlet of section of requirements of categories. Yeah, categories. So they're gonna be 10 categories, and I'm gonna put every single character that maybe not every single character, but like the main ones through it, and I'm gonna pretty much be giving them a star ranking system, as well as putting them on an actual tier list. So let me switch over to this tier list, right? So I have 10 slots, right? And there are 5 stars in each category. For the G category, I'll tell you that in a second. You'll worry about that later, right? So the 10 categories. The first category that we're gonna see is going to be the first impression. So first impressions, right? This is literally going to be the very first time you saw the character. And if you want to, so for example, me, I saw a handful of characters before I ever saw the show, because I saw them outside of the show. And that's, I could use that, or I can use, the first time I saw them in the show, which most of the time it'll be the ones in the show. So I think I'm going to mostly go for that, and I may bring up the alternatives. So let me see. The second one is character design. I'll be looking at their most current outfit. So we're in volume 8 right now, or I guess volume 8 has already finished, been out for like a year now, and volume 9 has not started because they delayed it. And so I'll be looking at their volume 8 outfits, and then working back. So so if a character has multiple outfits, I'll be looking at their most recent one first, and then I'll be going backwards, right? The next one will be the character voice. So how their voice actor does. And it's not necessarily going to be, whether I like the voice. It's going to be whether I like the voice for that character. So I may like a voice, but if it doesn't fit the character, then it's off, right? Next one's gonna be personality. So we're gonna be looking at their personality, seeing how they, how they think, how they act, and we're gonna go from there, right? The weapon, we're gonna be looking at the, the design and the practicality of it, seeing it as a standalone away from the character. So we're not gonna be including the character inside of their weapon, right? Next, we have semblance. We're gonna be looking at their semblance as a standalone as well, right? So, for example, RWBY with her pedal burst, we're gonna be looking at that as itself, not including technically RWBY, even though that's part of it. But if I was to take this and give it to someone else, how would it work, right? The next one's gonna be combat. It's gonna be kind of including their weapon, their semblance, their fighting styles, so stuff like that, how it all kind of melds together and becomes its own combat style, which I've come to love in this kind of show. Next one's going to be the theme song, or if they don't have a theme song, it's going to be the one that's related most to them. So for example, like Sun Wukong doesn't necessarily have like a direct theme song, but he's in several songs. So like Sun follows so like I'm having a brain fart, can't quite remember. I remember his Team Sun versus Team Indigo in volume 3. I remember that one, but I can't remember the name of the one in volume 4. It's like morning follows night, I think. So I would be taking those into consideration, right? Character backstory. This is going to be pretty much taking their backstory, how I liked it. Does it make sense? Is it interesting? Is it not interesting? Stuff like that. The next one's going to be character development. I live for character development. I love character development. It just makes me so happy to see a character go from one spot to another. So we're going to be judging them on their progression, if they've progressed, right? So I will say this: if a certain category does not apply to a character, I will be giving them 0, right? And the reason is because I'm basing every single character off of a perfect 50-star make-believe character, right? I want to see how they stack up to the perfect character, which I will tell you does not exist. So for example, the perfect character would have to have a phenomenal first impression, make me so interested to watch them. Their character design, their voice, and their personality would just have to be not like annoying at all. It would have to be like just absorbing me. Their weapon semblance, combat would all, they have to have some sick fighting style with their weapon that just is crazy cool. Their semblance has to be extremely awesome, stuff like that. The theme song has to be sick. I have to be able to play that when I'm not listening, not watching the show. Like I have to be like driving in my car, bumping it, and then character backstory and development, they have to come from like the most tragic backstory to the most amazing, hero story, which like I said, this character doesn't exist. This character does not exist, but I think that's important, right? So the first character we're going to be taking is Ruby Rose. She's the main character, very first one that we ever meet in the show with the red trailer. But before we start, right, I want you guys to do something for me. I want you guys to follow along with me, and I want you to keep tallies of the stars, right? And in the comments, tell me how many stars that character got. And I'm going to create a second tier list consisting of the average of stars from you guys. So if I see like 11 comments, and I'm going to add up all the stars you add divided by 11, so therefore I'll get the average and say it's 40. I'm going to take the 40 and have it as a secondary tier list in which later I'll compare to my own, right? So how the stars work, you have 1 star. This is like not good. It means they have it, but it's just not good. So if a character has all 10 of these, they're going to have 10 stars, right? Minimum, right? If on the opposite side, you have a 5-star. 5 stars, this is like the best of the best, right? These are like the highest tier that you can think of. Absolutely phenomenal. I mean, they're your favorite. And then you can kind of figure out where 2, 3, and 4 are. 2 is like, this is, just kind of weird. It's not really for me. So 1, this is bad. 2, weird, not really for me. 3, it's kind of average. Don't really care. Don't like it. Don't dislike it. 4, I like it. 5, I love it. That's kind of like the progression system I'm going for here. And then I'm gonna do that for all of them, right? There's 10 categories. There's 5 stars in each. So a total of 50 stars maximum, with a minimum of 0 stars. If there's a character who just does not exist, then they would get 0 stars. So, but we're only be talking about existing characters. So here you go. The G category, I'm only going to have 10 of these, right? I'm only going to have 10. These are gold stars. These are specifically for me, right? This isn't necessarily it's not going to affect the rating system at all. So what they are is they're my personal favorites in that category. So if, say example, my first impression of this character is flawless, then I'm going to give them the golden star. If I can't think of any other character that has a better entrance, like a better first impression than this character, I'm going to give them a gold star. And I'm not going to give it to anyone else unless I decide to change it later in the series. So say, for example, I choose Ruby, and then the second character we meet is Weiss. So if I decide like if I know my characters, so if I'm like, oh, like Ruby's my favorite and like first impression, and then when I'm doing Weiss's, I'm like, you know what, now that I'm thinking about it, I actually preferred Weiss, then I can change it, but I probably won't. But like I said, the gold stars are not going to affect the total points. It's only for me to kind of show you guys my major preferences. That being said, these are my preferences. So I know that I'm going to be harsh on these characters. Not with all these categories, because some of these categories I'll have a little leeway on. So for example, like the theme songs, like the music, I love all the music. So generally we're probably gonna be looking at 3 to 5 stars in all of them, just because Jeff Williams does a phenomenal job. So it's almost like free points there. But other ones, we'll see how it goes, right? So let's go ahead and start with Ruby Rose, right? So Ruby Rose, main character of the show, absolutely cool. I really like Ruby. I think she's phenomenal, right? So let me copy this star, because that's what I meant to do, right? So first impression, right? I actually have an interesting first impression in comparison to most. So back in November of 2019, I believe, it was either 2019 or 2018. I believe it was 19. My favorite game is Smite, right? I love Smite. It is a MOBA. It is a third-person, over-the-shoulders MOBA that is similar to like League of Legends or Dota, but instead of random characters they create, it's mythological gods like Zeus or Aphrodite, right? And they partnered up with Rooster Teeth and released a battle pass, right? So you could earn these skins of these characters. So the first time I get to see these characters was actually in their season 7 outfits, or volume 7, sorry. But they were in my game, right? So I was like, oh snap, I got to see kind of what they look like before, right? So for those 4, that is my initial first impression. But then after that, and I was like, oh, anime girls. So I went and I watched the show, and I found out there were trailers, and I watched the trailers before I ever watched episode 1, and it was really good. I really, really enjoyed it. So if we're going to look at Ruby Rose's first impression, right? I'm going to consider both my Smite, first impression, and also I'm going to consider the red trailer. So it's a little unfair, because I play jungle, which is more of an assassin role, and Ruby got Thanatos, who is an assassin. So the one who I played most was Ruby, simply because I was that role. So a little favoritism there is going to be applied there. So I did get to actually play as Ruby quite a lot, and she actually got 2 skins. So if you maxed out the battle pass a second time, I actually got a second Ruby skin, which was her volume 1 through 3 outfits. And I was like, dude, this is sick. It's crazy cool. So, but if we look at the red trailer, right, it's phenomenal. Like, the music in it is great. And the first time we see her, she's standing in a grave, which everyone's like, why is she standing in a grave? What is that? And then she immediately starts like bodying these, what I was thinking, werewolves. I was like, okay, Little Red Riding Hood over here just murking the big bad wolf, but there's 1,000 of them and she's just destroying them. I know now that they were werewolves, but just thinking back, I was like, Little Red Riding Hood's kind of crazy, right? I was like, this is sick, Plus it was Monty Ohm's like finest work, because it was all Monty. Like, it was just absolutely phenomenal just thinking about it. Like, she's gonna be either a 4 or 5 star, right? Let me see. I think initially I'd probably give her a 4 star if I'm thinking about it, because it was really good, right? 4 star, I think, is fair. I don't think it was the best thing I've ever seen, but it was really, really good. So I'm going to go ahead and give RWBY 4 stars, right? In the first impression category. I think that is, I think that's fair because, you know, it was really, really good to watch that. So next we're going to have a look at the character design. So we're going to be looking at just her main outfits. I'm not going to look at like her pajamas or her school dress or the secondary outfit they did in volume 2 or the pajamas in Atlas. I'm not gonna be doing any of that. I'm gonna be doing her 3 main outfits that she wears throughout the show. So I pulled them up in a separate tab. So like I said, we're gonna be looking at her most recent one, right? So I really do like RWBY's design. I've actually always been a fan of RWBY just because it's so simple, right? But it's also kind of complex. Like she has the steel-toed boots added on afterward, right? The fingerless gloves, which she added in this one, right? Which is just very good for the scythe. I mean, she's always had the bullets on her hip, which I always thought was interesting. You know, her emblem is just fantastic. Like it's just a rose, man. Like that's bloody awesome. You know, her red hood. It's just always been kind of iconic. But when she changed her hair here, at first I didn't like it. First glance, I didn't like it, but then now I actually prefer it over the original. I just think it works so much better just because, I don't know, it just shows like how much she's like matured, if you would. So, I mean, the belts are kind of crazy. I know what they're for though. The belts are so the cosplayers have somewhere to put their like phones and stuff, you know, all the extra pouches and whatnot. So, and I've always loved that she hid her weapon underneath her hood. I've always thought that was really, really cool. The choker, never really cared for it, right? But I think it's all overall pretty good. So next we can go back, right? Her outfits are all pretty similar. Like if you look at them, they're all generally pretty similar. Like she has the I don't know what you would call this, right? The only thing I could ever imagine like what it's similar to is if you look back to like Pirates of the Caribbean, you have those types of women that wear the stuff that, I don't know, push up and like squeeze their insides to make them look slimmer, right? Like I don't know, a stomach choke. I don't know what you call this. Unfortunately, I'm not the best with like clothes, but anyway, I know she has that kind of similar design, right? So I do really like it. And then her silver eyes have just always been really, really cool. Outside of I just think it's such a cool character trait outside of their abilities. So once again, more bullets, more belts, right? I think she's just overall a really, really cool looking character. I don't know, maybe it was because the first time I saw her, her volume 1 outfit, I would probably rank a little bit lower just because one, I never really understood what the crosses were for until after I had seen the show like completely. And it is kind of, I want to say bland, but it's not like the highest tier, you know? So like I'd give this one like a 3 because it's not bad, but it's not something I'm like all for, you know? This one, it's almost the same thing, maybe like a 3. I did like this one better than the volume 1 through 3 outfits. I thought that, it was brighter, so I was able to actually see more of the character, which I thought was really cool. And then her newest one, I really, really liked. I thought it was really, 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 really cool how they did it. So, so I'd give it like a 3, and like a 4. So let's average it 3, 3, 4. That's just going to be 2 3s. So I'm going to go ahead and give her a 3 for the outfit, even though I really do like her newest one, just because her 2 previous ones were all, whoa, what'd I do? Right. So just because her season 1 and 2 outfit were kind of, I mean, they were good, but they weren't like super drawing me in, right? They weren't like the highest tier. Although her newest outfit, if it was just that, I'd probably give her 4 stars, right? So character voice, oof. In the beginning, I did not care much for her voice. I've grown to appreciate it a lot more. But in the beginning, like I said, her voice was definitely a bit rough for me just because it was very high pitched. And I think the voice actress was, you know, learning the character. And I know in the beginning, they weren't like hiring people from outside. They were hiring people from inside. So they had a bunch of their like red versus blue characters. They would come in, right? So I'm going to go ahead and give her voice acting. But if I think about, I'd give her 2 in the beginning. But now, like her voice acting nowadays, like she's not as like, I don't want to say like squealy, but like high pitch. She has more of a hardened voice nowadays. So she is really, really cool. Like in terms of her voice nowadays as well. Jeez, this is going to be harder than I thought. Goodness, okay. So like I remember in the beginning, her voice was just like, just very high pitch, right? But now I've gotten so used to it and I actually really, really like her voice. Oh my, now I'm stuck. Now I'm stuck, guys. I don't know where to put this one. Like in the beginning, I'd say 2, but now I'd say 4. I mean, 3, maybe? Is 3 fair? Yeah, you know what? I'm gonna give her 3. I'm gonna give her 3. I feel like that's fair. I feel like that's fair. Yeah. So, personality, right? It's very much, in the beginning, it was very childish, as was pointed out, but now she's very, very hardened. I do think that she needs to be a tad bit more emotional. I think she bottles in a lot of her emotions rather than trying to deal with them. So maybe in like volume 9 and 10, it'll change. Which, by the way, speaking of that, these tier lists will almost become invalid once the new volume comes out. So yeah, we'll see how that goes. So personality wise, like I said, in the beginning, childish, but now she's become very, very hardened. And like she's so strong now. But she doesn't like release her emotions. She just keeps holding it in. And I wish that she would just release them, which maybe it will happen soon, but I'm not going to base this on hopes. I'm going to base this on facts, like what we currently have. I know in volume 8, she started to crack because like she started realizing that she was not leading perfectly, which is fair. I mean, she's younger than the rest of them and experienced. So jeez. Personality, man, for RWBY. How did we do this? I don't want to just keep giving her 3s, but it's going to be either a 3 or a 2. Because I really wished, like, if she would release all the stuff that she keeps holding in, like if she would just like break down and just cry, and not like during like volume 7 where Salem was like, your mother said those words to me, and then she just started breaking out in tears. Like, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking like I want her to start expressing the pain that she has, which, I mean, she does, but she bottles so much of it. And I just want it to be released. I want her to just like have like a freak out moment, because a lot of protagonists and main care of a lot lot of main characters slash protagonists have these moments where they become shattered. And when she had that moment against Salem in Volume 7, it just wasn't it for me. It was on the weaker side. I want her to be shattered, which I can think of if I theorize maybe for Volume 9 or 10 when they actually, you know, kind of figure out what's going on with Summer Rose. But I'm gonna give Ruby a 2, right? She's not necessarily have a bad one. It's just she hasn't used it yet. So the moment she uses this, I'm sure it'll shoot up to like a 4. But she has to like use her like bottled up anger and do something with it. So weapon, right? Crescent Rose, fantastic weapon. I got a great picture here. A fully customizable high impact sniper rifle slash scythe. So if we're looking at it, the way it kind of folds down is really, really cool. I like the volume 5, where they like the intro when they go and show us it kind of building itself. They also did it in the RWBY short in Volume 4. I always really thought that was kind of cool whenever weapons transform. I love that. I think it's incredible. So here she has this spike slash dull side, and like in Volume 1, she uses the blunt end to kind of beat Junior's men. I think that's really cool, right? How this can not only be a scythe, if this was just a scythe, right? Like how it was, like how it looks right here, if it was only shaped like this, then I could see it being problematic, because you have, like with a scythe, you almost have to pull your attacks to cut. So, but because she can do that thing where it locks up and it's almost like an arrow, she can just kind of go straight. That is really good for me. I really, really like that. And then with the upgrade in Volume 8, where she's able to click it and it spins, dude, insane. So I think that honestly, this is probably one of my favorite weapons in the whole show. It's not my favorite weapon, but it's probably one of, just because it's so like monumental. And also she's like 5'2" in the beginning of the series, and she's like 5'4" at the end, like where we're at now. And the scythe is 7 feet tall. Like, it's heavy, it's big, and she's crazy with it. So not only that, but it has a shotgun form as well, or whatever you would call it, right? Which she uses, like, for example, in Volume 1, Episode 1, when she's fighting Cinder and Roman, and Cinder's like, pew, pew, pew. But you know the scene I'm talking about, right? It has like a shotgun form, and that's also really, really good. It's a unique alternative bonus form. So I'm gonna go ahead and give this weapon a 5 stars. I love her weapon. I love this weapon. Crescent Rose, fantastic weapon. I really, really, really think it's incredible. So semblance, right? Really interesting. Had Volume 8 not come out and explained her semblance, I probably would rank it a lot lower, but because they gave us all that extra information, it became a lot more interesting. So her semblance is what is it called? Petal Burst, right? Petal Burst, I think. Ruby Rose, right? I'm like 90% sure it's called Petal Burst. All right, so it's called Petal Burst, and pretty much what she's able to do is break herself down to like a molecular level and move at a very high speed to a different location. It can be kind of broken, right? So if we look at like, so like this is what they did in volume 2, right? It was her unevolved form. It was a single line with rose petals coming at the end. The rose petals, I don't know if it was just an aesthetic or it was something that they added. The rose petals themselves don't quite make any sense. I mean, I understand why. I understand the concept of, you know, punning off her last name, but this isn't including RWBY as the character with a semblance. This is just a semblance. So having, you know, rose petals doesn't really make sense, right? It's when you break yourself down to a molecular level and then you dashed, having the rose petals come off of you would, one, tell people exactly where you went unless they dissolved, and two, if they were part of you, like if the rose petals formed off of you, you would literally just be burning part of yourself off. So although this is really, really cool and useful, the rose petals kind of give it some negative points there. So like here's one in volume 7 with her splitting. It developed in volume 4 in the character short where she was able to split into 3 and move back, like combine back into a single area. Do I think it's really, really cool? Yes, I think it's really cool, the way she uses it. But like in terms of practicality, the roses just kind of defeat the purpose of moving extremely fast if everyone can just see where you're going and you leave a trail. Because if you think of back in volume 2, when Ozpin was interviewing Blake, he said, oh, you know, like, oh, no, it wasn't when he was interviewing Blake. It was when Ozpin was at the mission board. And he was like, yeah, like there were reports of robots and rose petals at a dance club. Like, so why is she leaving rose petals? Like, why are the rose petals falling off of her? It's like, you're just telling everyone where you are. So in terms of practicality, that's a huge hit. And it does go up a little bit because with the information we got in volume 8, she's able to take people with her, which can be kind of busted. So I think overall, it's not the greatest, but it's not the worst either. So I'm just gonna give her 3 because I think that's gonna be a very, very good, very, very good amount. Like she's not great and she's not terrible. It's like in the middle. So in terms of combat's interesting because herself, she's not the greatest at combat. With a giant clunky scythe and her not perfect aiming skills, it makes it hard. Like in terms of her in like the RWBY trailer, she's hitting every shot. But with like, for example, the fight against Tyrion in volume 4, I know it was bad luck, but she still did miss and he was standing still. So I know that's bad luck, but still he was standing still and you missed him. So add that rough. And then in volume 6, when she shoots, she got outsmarted by Cordovan. So that was not about her. So I won't take any points off for that. Her scythe wielding skills, I'd like to say she's gotten better. Like in volume 1 against the like lower levels, she was fantastic. And probably one of my favorite scenes in terms of scythe wielding was volume 6, chapter 1 on the train, when her and Crow do that spinning combo attack and they cut that like Alpha Griffin in half. Dude, it was sick. So in terms of like combat practicality, like her skill, I don't think it's like the best, but I so enjoy watching her fight. Like just throwing a giant scythe. Yeah, so I'm just gonna go ahead and give her like 4. I love, actually, yeah, now that I'm thinking about it, I love watching her fight. I love watching RWBY fight. But because she's not the best, I'm not gonna give her 5 stars. Like, she does. She just needs to do better. Like, in terms of her, and her hand-to-hand combat is just so bad. I mean, it came back a little bit. We saw like a little taste in volume 5 of her learning a little bit of hand-to-hand combat, but she doesn't use it much. So she still relies on her scythe. So that whole training arc of her learning hand-to-hand combat, it's been practically useless other than that one headbutt she gave to Mercury. And then like in volume 8, the finale, like she lost her scythe and then she was just like, then she just took Neo with her into the void. So yeah, like she wasn't able to fight without her like without her scythe again. Or maybe she just chose not to. But so I'm gonna give her actually, hold up, maybe because she doesn't exactly use her semblance very often in a fight. I mean, she brings it up, but she tried to use it against Mercury back in volume 3. It got stopped. She also has her silver eyes, which I do need to consider. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I think 4. I think 4 is just an absolute good number for her. All right, so let's move on. So theme song, right? Theme song, Red Like Roses Part 1 and 2, especially with the rendition of, or the cover version done by Caleb Hiles. Fantastic. I play those quite frequently. So, like I said, these 2 stars, pretty much a given, right? You're gonna get 2 free stars, probably 3 free stars, and then this just kind of depends on whether or not I'm playing it all the time, like in the background. So it's like, hey, I'm playing this all the time. I play this every once in a while. I don't play this, you know. It's like, that's kind of what I'm thinking, because all the music is just phenomenal. And yeah, I play 1 and 2 quite often, both the original and Caleb Hiles. So, plus, if you think about Red Like Roses, there's so much more content and theorizing I can do simply because of that. I'm gonna give her 5 stars. I think I really, really like her theme song quite a lot. It's just really good because I'm able to theorize so much simply based off of, you know, the whole mother portion coming into it, and I'm just like, what? It's incredible. Character backstory. Oof. So character backstory, if I'm thinking about RWBY's backstory, it's so simple. It's such a simple backstory. It's something that she's always wanted to become a huntress, so she's always trained to become a huntress, and that's it. It's not a bad backstory, but it's not a good one either. But it also doesn't give me anything. Like, you can't really go back and watch anything of RWBY's. So in terms of backstory, like, she's gonna get either 1 or 2 stars because there's just nothing there. It's like, that's what she, like, it was all based on an ideal of her of her wanting to be a huntress. And that's it. Like that's her whole backstory. I didn't hate it, right? I'll give her 2 stars because I didn't hate it, but it could be so much more. Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and give her 2 stars. I think it could be so much more. But like, because it's so simple. So, all right, character development. So, process of character going from one spot to another. So in the beginning, she's very young, naive. And now she's very much hearted. So very much protagonist kind of path. So like Goku is kind of similar to that. Although, and Goku's like one of my favorite anime characters. He starts off, excuse me. So he starts off very, young and naive, and he learns, about the evil in the world and whatnot. So if you're thinking about RWBY, she comes in to the school off of a robbery, and she's very much goofy, which I love, by the way. But that's phase 1, right? Then you have the tragicness in volume 3 with all of the beacon stuff in the middle. So such as her becoming the leader, learning how to lead, being able to develop into a better leader. For example, it happened kind of fast in volume 1, but she was able to develop into a better leader, which is good. And her shot calls are really, really good. Going from the beacon arc to seeing her harden even more, especially after the Lost Fable, how she was able to just kind of move on and become someone who wouldn't just kind of, blindly go into battle because it's her dream. And seeing where she is now, fighting pretty much a war, and her like sacrificing herself because she was losing. So using that to her advantage, like I'd like to say she has a pretty decent character development, going from very young and naive to kind of that main hardened protagonist kind of vibe. I will say it's not the most dramatic change, but it is pretty good. Real quick. All right, I'm back. So, like I said, character development. I'd like to say that she developed pretty good. I have enjoyed watching her grow from one point to the other. So I'm gonna give her 4 stars. Right? It's not my favorite, but it's not bad either. Like it's not like something I haven't. It's not like a normal kind of like she did okay, and I don't dislike it, and I don't hate it. I actually enjoyed it. So I still do enjoy watching RWBY grow. The numerous times I've watched her is quite incredible. RWBY's not my favorite for any category. So in terms of if she was, it would be out of the 5-star categories, just so you know. But she doesn't have my favorite in any category. So the next thing I'm going to do before I tally these up, I'm going to go and show you the tier list. So I've assigned points, right? So if I go into my tier list, you have F tier characters. I don't think there's going to be any F tier characters, and I don't think there's going to be any S tier characters, but I think there's going to be A through D, right? So F tier, it would literally have to be really, really bad and not have, a section. So like, I don't think anyone's going to be an F. And for S tier, I think this is gonna be really, really hard to become an S tier. So, but I have different point values, right? So 10 to 19, or so 0 to 9 is F, This is me. I hate the character. D, you know, it's a D tier character. It's not, they're not like a good character. They're kind of bad. You have a C tier character, which is, you know, I guess technically it's in the middle. So your standard character. They're not good. They're not bad. I mean, they could be good. They could be a little bad. Maybe a little mixture of both. B, they're pretty good. A, really good. S tier is like top tier, right? So let's go ahead and count. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35. So we have 35. So Ruby Rose, I'm going to go ahead, equals 35, right? So she gets 35 stars, right? That's not bad at all, right? So 35 is going to put her in the B category, right? So she's not a bad character. I've always liked Ruby, which kind of makes sense. C would be the kind of average character, and B means like characters I like. A tier is like top of the line, and you know, S tier is crazy. So I went ahead and split the A tier and S tier into points of 5 instead of 10 points each. So we have 10 points, 10 points, 10 points, 10 points, 5 points, 5 points. So, because S tier is like A tier, but better. So it's, at this point, it's going to be very, very strict. So A tiers are going to be really, really good. So overall, I'm going to give Ruby a B, right? I think she's a pretty good character, but she still has a lot of places to grow. So I'd like to see her personality. I'd like to see her use her bottled up anger and sadness and grief to fuel her, and maybe give some more backstory, but I don't think we will because we already have it. So I think her backstory is just generally overall weak, but it's not bad. I don't dislike it. It's just weak. That's all. So I don't think 2 stars when I said I dislike this row. I don't think it's necessarily if I dislike it. It's just they just have so much room to grow. So personality, like I said, I just need her to do that, and then she could easily go up to a 4 or 5. So if she gets that, I mean, she'll still be a B, but she'll be a high B instead of a mid B. So like I said, Ruby Rose, 35 points. I'm gonna give her a B tier. So go ahead, like I said, in the comments, go ahead and tell me how many points you gave Ruby, and I'm gonna create a secondary tier list specifically for that. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. Tell me what you guys thought, how I did it. And I'll see you on the next one. Next one's going to be Weiss. So I'm going to be going into Weiss. Other than that, have yourselves a nice day, guys. And I will see you all in the next one.